Well, good morning, Leading Age colleagues and friends. Thank you so much for your warm welcome. Let me pause and begin by congratulating and thanking Catherine Roberts. She has been an incredible board leader, yes. During her service, she led the search for our new CEO, Katie Smith-Sloan. She developed a new strategic plan and put forth a bold new vision and mission statement. Since these items are at the top of any board's agenda, I ask myself, what else is left for me to do? But without a doubt, Catherine's leadership has resulted in outstanding outcomes that will propel Leading Age forward for many years to come. On a personal note, Catherine's become a dear friend and a confidant. I respect and admire her style and intellect and her ability to lead one of the most innovative aging services organizations in the country in Ecumen. Catherine, speaking for myself and all of us connected to Leading Age, thank you for your many contributions, your outstanding leadership, your dedicated service, and your ongoing commitment to Leading Age. Please join me in a round of applause one more time. I am honored to be elected by my fellow board members as your next chair. These dedicated and engaged members exemplify the biblical message of "to much is given, much is expected," and they readily accept the call to service. Now let me introduce our 2018 Board of Directors: Carol Silver Elliott, Catherine Roberts, Michael Rambrose, Christy Heinrichs, Marvell Adams, Terry Cunliffe, Stephen Horowitz, Roberta Jacobson, Karen Jones, Roberto Munez, Danny Sanford, Michael King, Pat Tersey, and Tom Akins. Please join me in a round of applause for these board members. I am humbled to stand in the shadow of great provider leaders and am grateful for the mentors and colleagues who counseled me and taught all of us a better way. I'm especially grateful for my colleagues from North Carolina for the many years of friendship and support. I want to extend my deep appreciation to the board, staff, residents, clients, and participants of the Wellspring Group for affording me the opportunity to serve Leading Age. The Wellspring team of professionals, some of whom were able to join me on stage earlier, is the most committed and caring group of people that I have ever encountered. At times like this, we remember with gratitude our parents who gave us life and nurtured us to be the people we are. My mother, who died 20 years ago, would be especially proud today. At 92, my father still lives in my childhood home back in Mount Airy, North Carolina. He is unfortunately a poster child for the advocacy efforts we collectively pursue. Dad is spending down what assets he has left on his personal care and will soon enroll in Medicaid. Here's a man who, with a 10th grade education, started his own business and ran it successfully for more than 4 decades. To watch as his independence fades and his finances dwindle is difficult. But how cruel and unnecessary it must be for this proud man to endure the added anxiety of financial pressures at this stage of life. We must and we can do better. Lastly, I can never thank enough the most important person in my life, my wife, Ann. Everybody needs a cheerleader, and she's my all-conference cheerleader. Ann is my best friend, my most trusted advisor, and one of the most patient people I know. We have 2 beautiful daughters, Brooke and Elizabeth, who bring us great joy. So, here we are at the Leading Age annual meeting. I remember attending my first annual meeting, well, it's been way back, some over 30 years ago. Back then, the turnout would fit inside of a hotel ballroom. Today, there are more than 7,000 of us in attendance, and we require this huge convention center to house us. While you're here in this general session, I hope you'll take the opportunity to look around and appreciate the vastness of our membership. Note the changing landscape of our field of service. For those of you with less work experience, I hope you'll notice that there are many of us who have been around for a while. That means a world of opportunity for you in the years ahead. As the leadership torch is set to be passed in many of our organizations, I encourage aspiring leaders to stay engaged in this field. Use this annual meeting opportunity wisely. Seek out mentors and learn from them. The annual meeting brings together the best leaders across the country in aging services and exposes us to practices we would have never known otherwise. Many innovations start from a spark from this annual meeting. Here, too, is where we make lifelong friends through common bonds, missions, and experiences. So if this is your first meeting or your 40th meeting, take advantage of these engagement and educational opportunities, and let us all be truly grateful for our time here together. In addition to being CEO of the Wellspring Group, for the past 15 years, I've also had the pleasure and honor of officiating Division I college football. I've officiated 4 bowl games and 2 conference championship games. Throughout this out-of-control hobby, I saw what separated good teams from really great teams, championship teams. What made them great was not just a great defense, as you often hear, but a balanced attack, a solid defense combined with a very potent offense. For too long, we here at Leading Age have been playing defense. Now it's time for us to focus on offense. Here are a few thoughts about how to do that. First, let's identify the fundamental to our offensive strategy: advocacy. Advocacy is the #1 priority of Leading Age and key to our success and longevity as providers. As we know all too well, regulatory challenges and funding shortfalls are constants in our provider lives. We must work to develop proactive policies rather than just accepting what's handed to us. These policies must be clear and concise, and the process we use to develop them must be transparent. As an association, we can and we will do better in this regard. On Sunday, your board approved a process that creates a transparent mechanism for new policy development. At times, I, like you, have wondered how Leading Age arrived at certain positions on certain matters. Hopefully, if we execute this new process correctly, transparency will be evident. To be good on offense, teams must practice. The more repetitions, the better the execution. Advocacy must be a repetitive process. More advocacy initiatives are needed at this and every Leading Age event, not just the annual leadership conference in Washington, D.C. To that end, I hope you will consider attending a new addition to this year's meeting. The Advocacy Town Hall will be held here in this hall, Hall C, General Session Hall, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Since I'll be moderating, I sure hope to see you there. Great offenses require talented players, and we certainly have a wonderful and talented staff in the Leading Age National Office. But we have relied on them for far too long to play advocacy defense for us. Here's how we can help them and our association be more offensive in our advocacy efforts. First, it's as simple as replying to a survey when requested. Each provider is a well from which to draw upon. Staff needs to know what's in the well. Please respond to surveys. Also, respond to calls for action. Periodically, Leading Age sends out action alerts. Look for them, take action, pass it along. Have your staff, your family, and your friends do the same. Next, invite your elected officials into your organizations. Challenge them on how they vote and who they serve. Finally, get to know your representatives. Better yet, get to know your representative staff. They should know you on a first-name basis. Fundamentally, advocacy needs to be front and center on all of our agendas. Now let's talk about another fundamental that affects all of us in the room: board governance. In the past couple of years, we made the strategic decision to shrink the size of the Leading Age board. We're striving to become a leaner, more transparent, and yes, more strategic board. If asked, I think most experts would agree that fundamental weaknesses found in troubled nonprofits often begin with the governance process. Leading Age must set the example for its members so that they might consider ways to improve efficiency and effectiveness of their own boards. Without a doubt, our nonprofit volunteer board members are tremendous assets. I can attest to that fact in my own shop at the Wellspring Group. There is a direct correlation between engaged and thriving boards and financially sound members. Speaking of assets, there is no better local friend than our state Leading Age partners. Almost every state has an affiliate. They are our boots on the ground and #1 advocate. However, my tenure on the board has exposed me to the fact when you've seen one state, you've seen one state. We are all different with a diverse and wide variety and range of opportunities and challenges within our states. Your Leading Age state executive knows the ins and outs of what you need for your organizations to thrive. Get to know your state partners, attend their meetings, respond to their requests for information. Stronger state relations prove a win-win for everyone. And finally, to be offensive-minded, we must continue to grow our mission-based membership. Nonprofit responsibility is a differentiator that we must continually emphasize. As Katie just mentioned, you are doing amazing things every day in normal conditions and in the direst of circumstances, but never forgetting the mission of making this country a better place to grow old. Now, I would not be true to my Appalachian Mountain roots if I didn't share a story with you today. Early in my career, I had the pleasure of serving Friends Homes, a Quaker community back in North Carolina. One day at Friends Homes, I met a resident, Mr. Suttles. He was in the community's garden, and like many of those we serve, he was widowed, retired from active employment, and finding his niche in this life plan community. Obviously, his niche was vegetable gardening. Now, in my youth, my mom had sent us out to pick our fair share of berries and vegetables, but I'd never raised my own. So I decided to ask the experienced Mr. Suttles for help. That spring, Mr. Suttles served as my teacher and I his student. Now, growing up in the South, green beans were often a staple at Sunday dinner. So Mr. Suttles and I decided we would grow green beans. I set my rows and spaced my seeds apart just like Mr. Suttles taught me. And sure enough, my beans sprouted and they grew. Now, the green bean we tend to like in North Carolina is called a half runner. It gets its name for the plant's desire to run, or better yet, climb. In that first year, I noticed my plants had produced beans, but the plants had run all over the ground and intertwined with each other, essentially slowing down the growth of all the plants, thus cutting my crop short. I asked Mr. Suttles about it, and he said, "Oh, I was waiting until you figured it out on your own." But since I asked, he said I needed a trellis. So the next year, I planted my beans, and this time mounted a simple string trellis above the rows. Wow, what a difference. It was also easier to pick the beans. Because the plants now had a structure to grab onto, they were free to climb and flourish. I had a bumper crop that kept producing late into the season. Folks, it occurred to me, leading age is our trellis for growth. By joining together, this association provides us a platform that if we use correctly, will help us run less and climb more. Collectively, we'll reach our full service potential. So I ask you, no, I urge you to engage, to grab a hold, and to climb. Now is our time as providers to say we've had enough of senseless regulations and mindless funding policies. As the proverbial adage goes, if not us, then who? If we raise our collective voices, I know we can be successful in changing attitudes and policies on aging. We are indeed a fortunate group of professionals. We have the unique opportunity to provide services to the largest population of older adults in our nation's history. Together, let us join this board and this staff in not only serving an ever-growing population of older adults, but also in tackling the pressing issues of our time. Together, let's make a difference in the lives of those we serve by changing the face of aging in America. Now, you may wonder, whatever would compel a person to want to be a football official and take the seeming abuse from coaches, players, and fans when things don't go their way? When asked, officials, almost to a person, will tell you the real reason they do it. It's for the love of the game. They have a passion to be actively involved in the game they love, not to be mere spectators. Now, we are all playing out our own services to older adults on fields back home, where we're tackling burdensome regulations, labor shortages, and inadequate funding. But where are we on the state and national field? Are we sitting in the stands cheering or cursing? Or are we on the sidelines waiting to be called in? Either way, colleagues, this is your career we're talking about. This is your mission. This is your passion. And yes, this is your purpose. It's time we collectively step off the sidelines and onto the national playing field. More than ever before in our nation's history, it's game day. And it's our time to change the way America ages. I want to thank you for your confidence in me as your chair, and I look forward to serving you in the years ahead. Thank you again. And with that, I'll close the annual meeting.